Now, where's the lady who held up the sign saying, "Pick me"?
Thank you.
All right, I usually don't encourage this type of bad behavior, but I'm going to do it. So you said pick me, you'll be the last question today. By the way, everybody, remember when I did this? This could wind up being really good or really bad. Whenever I do this, it goes either way. So go ahead, ma'am.
I just have to say I've never gotten in trouble before, so you're my first reprimand. But anyway, my name is Susan Keta, and I am from Warren County. I'm a member of NAMI Warren County, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and I am a mom. I have a 31-year-old daughter who has suffered from mental illness since she was young, and as she grew up, she started to use drugs to stop the tornado in her head. She has been at Warren County Correctional Facility. She had drug court, failed drug court, ended up at Edna Mahan for 3 years in the mental health section. Recently, she maxed out last year and ended up and then in the fall, this past fall, she tried to commit suicide and ended up in Greystone. And I am her mom, I'm her advocate, and I'm here for her. And I noticed that you created a Facing Addiction task force to fight addiction. And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. First off, there have been few things that I've cared about more or worked on harder in my time as governor than what you're talking about. Because I really believe that drug addiction, the same as other mental illnesses, is an illness. And we need to stop looking at it as a moral failing and start looking at it as an illness that we need to try to treat. And everybody makes bad choices and bad decisions in their lives. All of us do. And we've been lucky, most of us, that those bad choices and bad decisions has not led to a life of addiction. And so for your daughter, I'm sorry that she failed out of drug court. Drug court is one of the things we've done to try to expand access for folks who are nonviolent offenders, as it sounds like your daughter is, to give them the tools they need to be able to try to deal with their addiction. One of the other problems with dealing with this issue is, as you know, there's enormous stigma that's attached to this. People don't want to talk about it because we still kind of gauge drug addiction as a moral failing and not as an illness. There's not stigma attached to cancer. There's not stigma attached to heart disease. You know, some people may look at you and say, well, you didn't eat well or you were a smoker, but no one says to you then, like you're kind of getting what you deserve. People say, no, go get treatment, try to cure your cancer, try to cure your heart disease, give you medicine, try to help you. We don't have the same feeling in large parts of the society about drug addiction and alcohol addiction. We somehow think that because they made the choice, and that's a false idea as well, because lots of people just have an addictive personality and it's genetic, that we need to deal with this differently. So the Facing Addiction Task Force has been put together and is working to develop programs that not only complement what we have already in terms of giving people treatment for these problems, but also holding public events that begin to lower the stigma. I think the more prominent people in our society talk about this, the better chance we have in lowering the stigma and letting more people come out and ask for help. A lot of times people who have this problem, as you know, hide in the shadows. They don't want to ask for help because they're made to feel like failures. And they're not happy with themselves either. And when you talked about what you're saying too, when you combine mental illness with this, which often happens, it was a great way you put it. The torrent that was going on in your daughter's head combined with the addiction is an extraordinarily difficult problem to deal with. So what we're trying to do is to make treatment more available for folks, and we're being successful at that. The drug court program is being phased in across the entire state over 5 years. We're 3 years into that because we need to continue to develop more facilities that can take the increased number of people and more folks at the law enforcement level to be able to deal with this as well. And we're trying to make sure that we talk about this publicly as much as possible to deal with the stigma issue. The last thing I say to you is this, that what we need to understand as a society, in my opinion, is that there but for the grace of God go I. Any of these people who will find themselves in this position, it could be me or you. It could be your son or daughter, your grandson or granddaughter, your niece or nephew, your husband or wife. your brother or your sister. This is without regard to education, economic status, success in your employment. It affects everyone in this society. And we cannot just throw these people in jail. It does no good, everybody. Listen, if they're violent, they need to go in jail. We can't have violent people on our streets attacking innocent folks. But so many of the folks that we put in prison now are nonviolent. They're just addicted. And they do petty crimes to support their addiction. We need, as a society, to understand that this can happen to anyone. And I will tell you that for me, and I've told this story a number of times, I'll tell it again today, so you understand that I do understand this. A good friend of mine who I went to law school with, was one of my close friends in law school. He was the smartest of the group of us who studied together. We had a study group. He's the first one who went out and got a really good job. He was one of the editors of the Law Review at Seton Hall. He then went out, he was the first one of the group of us who became a partner in his firm. He married a beautiful woman who was a doctor. They had 3 beautiful daughters. This great career. He was an avid runner, great shape, and he was running 15, 20 miles a week. And he wound up hurting his back from running so much. So he went to the doctor, and the doctor gave him Percocet. He started taking Percocet, and then Oxycontin, and then Percocet and Oxycontin with vodka. And this friend of mine, who was handsome, successful, Ivy League educated undergrad, one of the top people in our class, in our law school class, one of the most successful lawyers I know, with a beautiful home in New Jersey and a great career and an incredible wife and beautiful daughters, became an addict. And we intervened, his friends, we went, we had an intervention. His wife came to us and said, he won't listen to me. You guys need to talk to him. You're his friends forever. So we all went. He was living someplace else. We went, we intervened with him. We got him into treatment a number of different times over a 10-year period of time. And nothing worked. And a year ago, last week, I got the call on a Sunday morning that I dreaded I was going to get for 10 years. That they found him in a hotel room with an empty bottle of Percocet and an empty quart of vodka, dead. He had been divorced. He couldn't see his children. He lost his job. He lost his driver's license. He blew through his retirement money. And he was living in some hotel and wound up dead. If you looked at this person from the outside, you would say, how? You had everything. Everything that our society values. You had it. What are you doing? We said this to him. And we said it to him because we didn't understand. It's addiction. It's an illness. And even when we got him the tools to try to deal with it, he couldn't. You know, there but for the grace of God go I. This is a disease that is going to destroy our country if we continue to force these folks into the shadow and make them feel morally inferior for being ill. And so I'm going to continue to talk about it and do things about it because I want your daughter to have a chance to enjoy the life that you gave her.
Thank
and
you.
for those folks, you know, and I'm one of them who's pro-life, let me tell you something, everybody. Pro-life means being pro-life for the whole life. It's easy. Now, my wife says I say this because I never have been pregnant. But I said, like, it's easy when they're in the womb. She says, not so much. But it gets a lot more complicated when they get out. And when they make decisions that are bad ones. And they disappoint you. And they scare you. And the 16-year-old on the floor of a county jail cell, drug addicted, that life is just as precious as the life in the womb. The life of your daughter, with all the difficulties you just chronicled she has, is still an individual gift from God. And we better start thinking that way as a society. Because if we don't, the next person could be our son or daughter. And we'll never think that that life is worthless when it's our son or daughter. How can we possibly think it when it's yours?
Thank you.
So that's what we're trying to do. I'm I'll be thinking about you and give you, hopefully, that God will give you the strength and the faith to be able to deal with this and to help your daughter. We're going to try to help in every way we can. And we all should be talking about this, because if we do, then every life we save is an individual miracle. Every one. And it can happen to anybody. So that's what we're trying to do. That's what it's about. I want you to give your information to our folks, because there's a bunch of things and a number of different ways that we can be helpful that a lot of people don't know about, because we don't talk about this enough. So we'll get one of my staff to talk with you and see if there might be ways we can help with your daughter.
Thank you.